What's going on? It's Ed from My PPC Training. Welcome to the channel. And if this is your first time here, I'd like to welcome you and hope that you subscribe to the channel. This is quickly becoming the largest and deepest library of AdWords training content anywhere in the world, especially on YouTube. So we really hope you enjoy the content. Devour as much of it as you possibly can. We hope you dig it. Like the videos if you can. Subscribe if you're enjoying it. And if you're from the agency side of things, be sure to check out this YouTube playlist we have around how to get PPC clients. We go over PPC pricing models. We go over niches to target, niches to avoid, cold emailing, all sorts of good stuff. We're going to continue to add to that. We drop about a video a day at least. So we're very active on the channel. We really hope you're digging this content. And let's dive into the reason you're actually here. So we're here today to talk about pay-per-lead, the pay-per-lead business model, specifically the mistakes to avoid. Now, before I really dive into the content, what I'd like to do, though, is really hammer down what pay-per-lead actually is and what it's not, so that we're clear on the definition of it. So pay-per-lead is generating leads typically for local businesses. It could be regional and national business as well. And you only get paid once a lead's generated. So you're not getting a monthly management fee or some sort of fee, whether it be upfront or whenever, to do this. You're getting paid on a per transaction basis. Now, you can take fees up front and debit from that. So you take $1,000 up front and then you debit from that and debit whatever it is per call, and then take the next 1,000 after you go through that. That's totally fine as well. But all pay-per-lead really means is that you're getting paid per action, so per phone call or form submission that you generate, as opposed to a set management fee for services. So I just want to be clear on that. Now, there are a handful of ways to actually work this model effectively, and I want to go through those and kind of go through the pros and cons of each and give you my feedback. So if you're not familiar, myself and my partner Rob, we own an agency. We specialize in Google AdWords and we specialize in lead generation, and we have got about 100 clients at this point. And I'd say at least once per week we get approached by a potential white label partner that is looking for us to do a pay-per-lead model with them to generate leads to sell to a local business. I'm going to go over that in a little bit, but I just want to preface that so that you understand that I've got a lot of experience in generating leads for local businesses, so I'm not just making this shit up. So, all right, let's start with having a website that you own and that you performed SEO on, and it's now generating phone calls and you're looking to sell those to a local business. So in this case, let's use a roofer as an example. You go and you want to generate leads for a roofing company in, say, Raleigh, North Carolina. I live in the Raleigh market right now. So if you go by, let's say, RaleighRoofers.co or RaleighRoofers.com or whatever, and you perform SEO on it and you get it ranking high and you get it in regular organic or you get it in map listings and it's starting to generate phone calls, you can now go sell those phone calls directly to a local business and they'll pay for them. And at that point, you've got sunk cost, right? You don't have a recurring cost typically other than some call tracking costs, which are pretty small. You know, you're talking pennies, nothing dramatic on a monthly basis. So your profit margin after your sunk cost to actually perform the SEO to get it ranking are extremely low. And it's a very, very profitable business and it can be great. The things you've got to look at are keeping track of the leads, verifying that it was an actual lead and not someone looking for a job or someone calling the wrong business or whatever. So that's something you've got to think about. You can hire people overseas or you can do it yourself and screen the phone calls and listen. But you just want to have a handle on the quality of the leads that you're generating. Now, the same goes for map listings. Say you got a map listing in Google Map Pack and it's generating phone calls for that roofing company. It could be just a map listing or it can be an organic as well. I put them separately, but it could be the same thing. And same goes for a YouTube video. So say you made a YouTube video about that roofing company and you've got a strong call to action, you've got a phone number, and it's generating phone call leads for you. Again, those leads get directed directly to that roofing company, and then they pay you per lead. Now, how you set up the transaction is completely up to you, whether you get paid up front and then they debit the calls you debit the calls as they come in, and then once that money is run through, you take another another credit of money, Or you can do it on a per transaction basis. So you may lump together a week's worth of calls and then ding their credit card or send them an invoice and then they pay that. However, it's your business. However you want to set this up, it's completely up to you. Next way you can do this is with Craigslist. Craigslist has gotten a bit more difficult. They make you pay for listings now. You used to not have to pay for listings, and there would be some techniques on how to do this with Craigslist, because if you are too aggressive with your posting, you could get ghost listings that never really show up. But if that's something you're interested in, just Google how to generate leads with Craigslist, and there are tons and tons of videos and trainings on YouTube about how to do that. It's not really my specialty, so I just wanted to give you an idea that it's possible. Not something I do. Again, there is some cost to this in that you've got to create, if it's a graphic ad, you've got the graphics that you've created, so the collateral for it. Most of it's written. So the real cost associated with that is someone posting the ads on a daily basis, and you've got to do it in a pretty consistent fashion so that you have enough exposure in the market. You can't just do one ad once a day and hope for the best. You really need a lot of ads going and the exposure to make it work. A lot of it can be done overseas. I know you need to use, from what I've been told, you need to use virtual private servers so that you aren't leaving a footprint and showing too much activity coming from one location. So that's the Craigslist side of things. You can basically do the same thing with direct mail, depending on how good at direct mail you are, what type of response rates you're getting. If you think about it, you can generate leads and sell those leads to local businesses. I don't know if I'd necessarily do it in a pay-per-lead fashion as much as maybe a joint venture fashion, where you get a percentage of revenue on a closed deal, just because what it costs to generate a direct mail lead versus, say, an SEO'd pay-per-lead, or an SEO lead rather. Those could be two totally different things, and there's a lot of factors that go into this. So if you're new to this, I'd skip direct mail at this point, unless you're a nasty copywriter and very good at direct mail. That's for another video. All right. So the next way you can do this is with Google AdWords, which is now called Google Ads, and that's basically when someone types in roofing company near me, roofing company Raleigh. You get your ad to appear. They click on the ad. They go to a landing page, and they generate, a certain portion of those clickers are going to become phone call leads or form submission leads. Additionally, you could do it as a call-only campaign. So what that is that's a mobile-only campaign, and that's when someone can actually click to call directly from the ad itself. That produces phone calls. It's not always as a click-to-call ratio. It's a bit of a misnomer. It typically takes 2 to 5 clicks before you produce an actual real phone call. There's a very high abandon rate on those because once someone clicks on it, the smartphone prompt says, "Did you mean to make this call, connect or cancel?" And the cancel rate is very high. So that's something you've got to take into account as well. Lastly, Facebook ads. Very similar to how Google ads would work, but you're doing it more demographic or geographic targeting wise, and a little bit different. I don't want to get specifically into that, but you get the idea. You put out ads, a certain portion will become leads. You go on to sell those leads. Now, the reason for this video is I want to go over some mistakes some common problems and mistakes that I see on a very common basis, and the thinking or the incorrect thinking I hear from partners that come to me and are looking to deploy this business model in the market. Now, many moons ago, I had lots of web properties where I would do pay-per-lead, and I would sell pay-per-lead. Soon thereafter, I got sick of the pay-per-lead model, tracking, listening to phone calls, so I shifted everything over to rank and rent, which is another business model. Essentially, I ranked the website through good SEO techniques, and I just rented it to a local business. I'd put their logo on it. I'd have my tracking number on it. Any phone calls that went out went direct to them, and I would get a flat fee. It became a lot easier from a maintenance standpoint, and that I didn't have to go and listen to all the calls and verify that they were actually legit calls. So it made my life a lot easier. That's something to think about. If you've got good SEO skills and you don't want the headache of a pay-per-lead model, that's a solid model to go after. Now, some might say you're leaving money on the table because say you're renting it for $750 a month, but in actuality it generated enough leads to generate, say, 1,000 or 1,500 or 1,100 or whatever. You've got to weigh the pros and cons of the additional time that you'd need to input or hire and train someone to put their time into it to do it. Is that extra revenue worth all the extra effort and time and training that you need to put in to make it a sustainable business? For me, I totally wasn't interested in that. I wanted to set it and forget it nature of it, and it was effective for us, or I should say effective for me. This is before I partnered with Rob. The thing was, I got absolutely slammed by a Google penalty, and overnight I lost a bunch of sites. So that's the risk you run when you build your entire business, the rank and rent model on SEO websites that were I would say aggressive enough to get penalized. So that's something to be aware of. Now, the reason I get phone calls about this is because people want to come to us. As I said earlier, we're a Google partner agency. We're a certified Google partner, and we specialize in lead generation campaigns. So white label partners will come to us and say, okay, hey, listen, we're looking for you to generate leads. We're going to go sell those leads in market, and we're going to get, X amount of dollars per lead, whatever the margin is on top of it. Now, that'll work for some markets, but you've got to think about SEO SEO pay per lead and AdWords or Facebook pay per lead. They're very, very, very different beasts. With SEO pay per lead, you've got sunk costs. You've got very, very, very tiny ongoing costs. Whereas with AdWords pay per lead, it's all recurring costs. Every phone call, there is a cost associated with it. So it may take you $100 to generate that roofing call. It may take you $150. It may take you $60. Depends on the market. Every market is different. So you can't just say, I sell $100 roofing leads. It's a very dangerous game to play because every market, your margin is going to be different. Now, a couple other things you've got to take into account are that not every AdWords lead is gold. You are going to get idiots that call looking for jobs. You can go into the negative list and you can negative out the word job, jobs, hire, hiring, manager, salary, how to become, how to start, resume, training, course. You can negative out to death words that would indicate someone calling for a job or something like that. You can't take them out of the equation because they'll type in, we'll go back to the roofing example, they'll type in Raleigh Roofing Company, they'll click that ad, and the same person that typed in a Raleigh Roofing Company that's looking for a job, that search result could also be a person looking for a company to help re-roof or do a roof installation on their house. So you've got to be careful, and it's dangerous. Now you've got that cost per lead to generate. Okay, so let's say it was $100 per lead. You've got that cost. Now you've got anything you were going to add on top of it in your margin. Let's say you were going to charge $150 for it, and you were going to make $50 off that call. That owner of that business is going to reject that lead, and now you're out not only the $50 you were going to make in your margin, but the $100 that it cost you to generate that lead. Now you've got to look over the course of the month. Do I have enough leads to make up for that? Will it balance it out? Plus, if you're not an expert and not generating these leads via AdWords yourself, you've got to then factor in the management cost. So you hire an SEO freelance, or I'm sorry, an AdWords freelancer, an AdWords consultant, a white label AdWords agency like myself, and we generate the lead for you. We've got a management fee in there. So you've got to factor that in as well. And the other thing to look at is how much are you charging per lead? And then what's the management fee? What's the budget? Look at all of that stuff and then say, okay, not only are people going to call for jobs, which does happen. I'm not saying you're going to get flooded with them, but these things are things you've got to take into account. It's going to be a very small percentage, but again, you've got to take these things into account. Next thing is hangups. Next thing is just shitty leads. Sometimes these things happen. You've got to factor these things in. You could be as hard as nails as you want. And you could say, I don't care. I'm not that guy. That business owner is paying for that lead. Well, you know what? If you make them pay for that lead, they won't be a business partner of yours very long. They won't be a pay-per-lead partner of yours very long, and they'll leave and they'll be pissed off and they'll be salty. So these are all things you've got to take into account. AdWords is also a moving market. Think of it like the stock market. It ebbs and flows, which means it contracts, it constricts. It different people enter the market and do different things to increase bids, decrease bids. Your activity is never exactly the same. You just basically, when it comes to an AdWords campaign, you just put out your best foot forward and defend your position, and you put out your best practices. It will never be, I will never say to a client, we'll always have your lead under X, or you'll generate Y amount of leads per month, because I'm not Google. I don't know what's going to happen in the market. We just know how to go out and generate leads in the market and how to defend your position in the market. But the reality is nothing's given, and what Google giveth, Google taketh, and these are things you've got to take into account. So if I were to go into the pay-per-lead model today, as an agency owner and someone that can generate leads in pretty much any market at any moment, anywhere in the world, I'm telling you right now, I likely would not do it using AdWords. So take that with a grain of salt. Take that I would rather deal with clients direct than have to deal with the pay-per-lead model. Now, if I was still current on SEO, I am somewhat, but if I was still heavily active in it, and that's the route I wanted to go, I would do SEO rank and rent as opposed to pay-per-lead. Just because the logistics on the back end are a pain in the ass. I don't want to sit there and be an accountant and start, having to track everything. That's a pain in the ass. Now, there are some really cool softwares out there. You could do your Call Zoo, or you could do by Chris Winters, or you could do ACT by Joe Troyer. I know there's some automation on the back end, some cool stuff you can do. I would do that with an SEO site. I wouldn't do that with an AdWords site, just again because of logistics. On the AdWords front, if you were able to be in a market where a lead was worth a ton, $500, $600, $700, whatever, because the end transaction value was so enormous that it made financial sense, maybe I'd think about that. But those markets are few and far between, and you've got to be really good at what you do to be able to generate leads in those markets. So again, take it all with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion, but please remember that this is what I do for a living, and I don't choose to be in this market. So if you got anything out of this video, which I hope you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to this video. If you have any questions or any feedback, or you think this video sucks, or you think I'm a jerk, or you love it, or you've got any more questions about pay-per-lead, or you have any input, or you disagree with what I'm saying, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear. All right. Hope all is well. Have a kick-ass rest of the summer, and I'll talk to you guys later. Talk to you.